Hello folks and welcome to today's special show. Myself, Shane Stapleton and Michael Verney with me as well. We're here for the All-Ireland minor final that's coming up this weekend. Tipperary against Kilkenny. That's going to be at Nolan Park, and we have a slew of brilliant guests on the show today for that Electric Ireland All-Ireland minor final. First off, Michael Verney, you got to be looking forward to this game.
Yeah, I'm surprised you boys gave him hometown advantage. You don't want to give the right. Like, the only thing I'd say is, if you do beat them in Nolan Park, it makes it even better again. And you obviously won your last All-Ireland minor final in Nolan Park. But yeah, ballsy call now. You did, yeah. Oh yeah, surprisingly enough, you did.
Yeah. Who was that against?
Yeah,
that was a great day. I know you don't see it that way, but that was a brilliant day, especially having my own hometown club mate, Paddy McCormack, scoring that late goal. And we're going to be talking to Cathal Barrett about his club mate, Cathal O'Reilly, being the Holy Cross man, that he's captain of Tipperary going into this final as well. So, you know, all those connections that you have within club as well. I presume you've had club mates involved with minor teams going into big games.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you get a good buzz out of it now. Ben Miller was fullback for the Offaly 20s, and you're willing them to do well the whole time, and you're willing them to perform well and get on well. Like, sure, that's your representation on the biggest day in the under 20 calendar, whatever it was, and he did brilliant after him. We Daleby Watkins in the panel, and Johnny Pilkington was a selector, obviously, as well. So you get even more. You're already vested, but you get even more vested in it when you have lads like that involved. Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, well, look, we're going to be talking about that an awful lot now as time goes on. And get your comments in. Let us know your thoughts on it. Any questions for Cathal Barrett, Niall Moran, or Brian Dowling, who are all going to be on the show as we progress here. But we have to talk about Mícheál Murray. And this is a video I did with him just a couple of years ago in his home in Kildare. So he's talking about Christy Ring here. So let's have a quick little listen. Oh, I think that was the wrong video.
Well, he had all the skills and he was driven. There was nothing higher in life to him than hurling, be it club or county or province. He was that driven. He won a minor All-Ireland in 1938, I think. And 'twas his brother told me this. He was picked as a right half back. And very early in the game, they got to 21, and he wasn't the designated free taker. And he ran up and told the guy that was getting ready to take to get out of the way. That's the way. And the brother Willie said to me, and he scored a point, a goal, of course. And he was that way all his life. He had this supreme confidence in his own. But he was senior in 39. Can you imagine? I broadcast the final of the Railway Cup hurling match of 1963. And Christy Ring was still there on the Munster team winning his 18th Railway Cup.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And he hardly missed a challenge game and all that. He had the skills. He was a tough man when he had to, but he was driven by hurling, and he had great respect for people that would stand up to him and all that. And himself and Mick Mackey were rivals. And
the famous photo.
Oh yeah.
And what was he like as a person to chat to?
Well, he was a quiet, reserved man. He was later on when he became a selector. You know, he was a bit more open, but he was still Christy Ring, who was the king.
Yeah, I mean, that interview goes on for well over an hour anyway. That's on the OurGame YouTube channel if you want to. Do you know what? I think half the time you could even zone out on what he's saying and just listen to his voice, and you just melt away with it.
Yeah, the voice totally draws you in, and like I just remember so many times listening to games on the radio, and you had that uncanny ability to make you feel like you were there and make you feel like you weren't missing out, because you're generally 99% of the time you're missing out if you cannot see the game. But he was, you felt like you knew everything that was going on, like on the 50, on the 40, on the 30, and you know what I mean. It was just brilliant the way he'd draw you in. And listen, I've watched that interview several different times and different clips of it as well. Do you know what, it's there are certain parts of our job that are where like you have that memory forever that you went to Mícheál Murray's house and interviewed the great man. Like it's a really unique thing to have. One of the biggest legends the GA has ever seen, one of the biggest Irish sporting legends there's ever been. Like basically like an emblem of Ireland, the voice of Ireland almost. And it's a really, really cool thing to have. I have to say there are certain parts of the job that are an absolute privilege, and I imagine that's a massive thing to have under your belt.
Yeah, it certainly is. No, really, really enjoyed that. And do you know what? I came away just a little bit feeling like, oh, you should have asked even more and even more, because it went on for an hour plus, and he was so good at his time. But I think he was born in like the early 1930s, so he was born 93 years ago. And I was thinking, geez, why didn't I ask him about, does he have any memories of what it was like growing up and hearing all about World War II going on? I mean, I kind of regret stuff like that, but still, the stuff I did get out of him was magical.
There's always going to be, like with Micheál, there's always going to be stuff you missed, but there's so much in there. I remember sitting beside him for the 2019 All-Ireland football final replay. I was up the back and he was up the back there as well. And like his media career, should we say, would have finished in 2010, I think was his last, I think they did the hurling and football finals that year. But like such was his standing, like he always had a place in the press box, no matter how busy it was, no matter how little seats were available. Micheál would always have at least one seat there for him. And that was just the standing that he was held in. Tell you an interesting, it's a bit of a mad kind of a quirky one. I was in New Zealand in 2013 and I bought a New Zealand training top, very similar colour to this Electric Ireland top actually. And I was wearing it the following year when Clare and Cork played in Thurles for a Munster Championship game. I just happened to meet Micheál and got a picture taken, and I have it on my phone there. And it just so happened, I wouldn't wear that top often, but I was wearing it the day he passed, which I thought was bizarre. I remember looking down at it and thinking, geez, I have a picture with Micheál in this top and I'm wearing it today, which is just a bit of a strange one. But just the quotes, the quotes will live forever. The Sean O'Halpine, his father from Fiji, his mother from Fiji, his father from Fermanagh, neither a hurling stronghold. The one about Stephen Byrne, one of 12, and 11 of them are here today. Mary's the one that's not here. She's at home minding the house. Just great stuff.
Delighted to say we're joined by Niall Moran. Niall, we were just reminiscing on Micheál O'Mara-Hertig there, and just wondering, would you have had any dealings with him over the years?
Yeah, fortunate enough to meet him on a couple of occasions. On an all-star trip many years ago over in Singapore, I happened to have breakfast with himself and his lovely wife, and it was just, to be honest, everyone else probably hungover from the night before. I was a bit green on those trips. I was trying to do a bit of training, and I was the only one up for breakfast, but I was just blessed. I know his son was a physio over there at the time, and I know they were delighted to get over to see him, but just incredible. He came up there a couple of years ago to the school, I think it was 2018, to present Harty medals, and once again, a little bit like that, came to 12:30, 1 o'clock. Sure, we had a bed and everything organised from him, and no, nothing would do him mind to go back to his beloved Dingle. And I think I was like everyone else there yesterday or the day before, and I heard the news that you're kind of going back through your phone to see, do you have that prize picture? And like that, I said to her, my own wife at home, I said, that's one to get framed anyway. He was iconic, and I don't think anything I'm going to say is going to add to the what everyone else has said. He was just a gentleman to the bone, and just interesting actually. It was only, again, just in conversation earlier, I heard how he met his wife, and he happened to, I think she may have been a widowed woman, but he happened just to be staying with her above in Dublin. And when he was up there, obviously teaching or whatever else, and forged an unbelievable relationship. I think 8 kids later. So just look, his story has been told many, and will be told for many centuries to come.
Yeah, and rightly so. And Niall, it's All Ireland minor final weekend coming up, and we're just curious to know, what would your minor memories with Limerick or even at the club be?
My minor memories, very, very fond memories. I think for every lad who starts off playing inter-county, I suppose, in our house here at home, my brothers had kind of preceded me. They'd gone on to play senior, so you'd obviously hope the rite of passage would be to play, obviously, with your club, and even to play a little bit of Harty Cup, and obviously following on from that, then you'd hope to make your minors. And we had great memories. At that time, Limerick wouldn't have been as successful as what they are now, and maybe not as well structured even at that point, but we would have beaten Tipperary in a Munster final replay above in Thurles. But on the first game, actually, it was played out in Bruff. And Owen Kelly happened to be, obviously, Owen Kelly was Owen Kelly. He was his last year minor, his 4th year minor, and he was marking Owen Foley. And we had a drawn game. It was 4-13 to 2-19. we scored a 4-13. Owen Foley happened to be man of the match on our side, but Owen Kelly of the 4-13 scored, I think it was 2-11, 2-12. He was just incredible. And look, we happened to beat them in a replay, got to a Munster minor final. And if you're to ask me what my memory was, it was actually a very light-hearted memory. Again, like that, Limerick hadn't been to a minor final in 8 or 9 years. And I remember we went up on a minibus up to the match, and we had a little bit of a warm-up in St. Pat's, but the coach at the time was a guy called Dowling Moran, who would have played in the 84 All-Ireland, the Limerick minor All-Ireland, and Limerick, a real great character and all the rest. And I think we were coming up through the square, and Tip were playing Cork the same day, and we were freaked out, obviously, by the volume of crowd. We hadn't been prepared for that. And I'll never forget it, Val pulling the mooner, going up the bus up the square. I just said, if it happened today, that was his way. We were dealing with 16 and 17-year-old lads, and the coach pulling the mooner on the way up to the match. I think for a lot of us, unfortunately, Cork hammered us the same day. Tomas O'Leary was playing, and I think that was probably the highlight of the day for a lot of us. But look, it's a special occasion, and I've kind of tuned into a good few of the minor matches, to be honest. I happened to see the Munster final in person, and I was very, very impressed by Tipperary. I honestly, if you were to ask me, and again, it's not that I've seen all their games or saw all the games of the 20s, but as a Tip person, I'd probably be looking a lot more to this minor team for the guys you're going to get maybe coming through as seniors. And I suppose sometimes you talk about generational hurlers coming through, and I suppose in Tip, the argument to be maybe the last 5 or 6 years that they mightn't have had those generational hurlers, but I think in Ewan Murray at centre forward, I happened to see him maybe 2 years ago in a Féile final for Durlas Old. I just think he's an incredible hurler. And again, he's backed around it even up front. Stefan Tobin, I think, is it from Carrick, and Owen Doolan from Moneygall, really, really impressive throughout the year. So it promises to be a great game, because to be fair to Kilkenny, in Jake Mullen, they're probably one of the possible generational star, and it doesn't take a fool to realise what kind of stable he comes out of. And even the way he hurls like Adrian. So that's going to be a great game. And I suppose home advantage, maybe it will probably matter a lot even for Kilkenny.
Okay, well, delighted to say we're joined by Cathal Barrett, Tipperary hurler. Cathal, we were talking about the, I suppose, minor memories and that. What comes to mind for you when you think about hurling minor for Tipperary or for the club?
Oh, can you hear me all right? You can?
Yeah, all good.
I have nightmares of Tony Kelly and Colm Galvin for my minor career. We were beaten by Clare both years by a pint, and the same then the 3 years under 21 by their group of players that won their 3 in a row as well. So yeah, my minor memories wouldn't be as pleasant as the Tip minors at the minute. But yeah, no, look, minor hurling is unbelievable. It's really enjoyable. But
you're coming to us from a unique location, Cathal, by all accounts. I don't think we've ever had anyone in your location doing a show.
No, lads, the longer this digger is stopped, the more money you're going to have to pay. So, Jesus, I don't know.
Carl,
I'm nice to see you looking so
clean.
I was thinking, Jesus, last time, usually when I meet you, you're destroyed. If it's not blood, it's crap.
Yeah. I'll tell you, when we get off the call here, there's a couple of jobs needed to be done there. You're hard meant to get around the place to finish off a couple of jobs.
Cathal, just like in terms of this Saturday, you have your own clubmate, Cathal O'Reilly, involved there. Like, that's a huge honour for the club.
Oh, savage. She's unbelievable. Cathal is a super young man, and we've Tiernan Ryan there as well, midfield. Look, it was lovely the way it worked out, the Munster Championship, being named after John Doyle as well, and to have a Holy Crossman captain and to win it, like, it was really, really extraordinary for the club. But they're two super boys now, in fairness, and they go about their business very, very quietly. Like, Cathal doesn't say a whole pile, but he just goes and gets his work done. So yeah, no, we're really looking forward, and the Holy Cross is buzzing with them as well, because we had a couple of representatives on the 20 panel as well, and you've the two boys coming forward. So in fairness, there's lots of talk in Tipperary about Holy Cross coming, because we've lots of very good young lads. Like, we won the under 17 and under 19 the last couple of years. So it's very exciting times in Holy Cross at the minute. So look, hopefully the boys get another medal and another cup under their belt this weekend.
In terms of balancing things, Cathal, between having a coffee shop and being up in a digger, how do you keep everything going?
I don't know. Do I keep it going? Maybe it's all an act. Who knows? No, sure. Look, I'm very fortunate in my job that I have time to give to other things between Tip and the coffee shop. And look, I'm going building a house in the next month or so. I'm here digging a trench. Now I'm more bloody knocking half the wall here, really, if I'm to be honest with you. Look, someone has to do it. But yeah, look, Look, it's life, isn't it? Look, the older you get, you've other commitments and responsibilities. You just have to get on with it. It's like Niall milking cows in the morning, noon, and night for the last God knows how many years when he was hurling with Limerick as well. So that's just the joys of it. It's grand for you two sitting there talking rubber most of the day, isn't it?
Hey, the key, Cotton, is to get paid for talking rubber if at all possible.
Yeah, geez, Niall, I don't know you getting paid.
I kind of am getting paid by the state here as well as I'm sitting down.
Yeah, exactly.
Niall, did you ever miss training due to milking cows now that he brings it up? Because I know of a lad who didn't accept a county minor call-up because he was too busy milking cows and doing silage.
It used to be an issue here. Did you ever miss training? Luckily enough, because the boss man here, you never had to miss him. But I actually remember there, like springtime used to be a nightmare. I used to hate the National League, and lads would be talking to Jesus, the training and the heavy block of training. But like we used to go in there was mornings there, going in 3 and 4 hours of a Sunday morning before a league match, and the cows at home calving. And I'm not being smart about it, like as Carl said, life gets in the way. And there was often a couple of managers there, and he'd be trying to explain to them, I said, lads, I actually can't be there to sit down to, like what Carl is saying there, to kind of be talking rubber, like, you know, I'll be there on time and I'll have the breakfast gap, but like there was jobs to be done. And I tell you what really probably finished me was I finished up in 13, but I kind of went back in 14 and ended up playing the start of 15. And what finished me there was you're involved in school, and you were kind of coaching Harty, and you were playing, and you were back with Limerick, you were training, and our own father got out of the cows because he had no support at home. But I got back into him for my last 3 or 4 years playing Limerick. But what finished me off one Thursday evening was we were abroad in Rathkeel, and I was flipping tires. So that was the period when, like, obviously it was the S&C of the time or whatever else. And I was going home, and I said to myself, what the fuck are you at here? Abroad fucking flipping tires. There's cows to be calved. It's the only time you should be flipping tires. There should be plastic underneath them. You should fucking cover a pit. But yeah, look, it doesn't happen too often. I know a couple of Hughes brothers above in Monaghan, but they had a robot. I think the Tip boys there. I think there was some of the Kilkenny boys were the
Flynn,
twins.
yeah.
There was one of the boys was milking there as well at some stage. And I look, it's tricky, but as Carl says there, like, and again, Carl's probably at that stage of his life where, like, obviously you prioritize hurling, it's your be all and end all, but there comes a point when life has kind of kicked through a little bit, and do you know what I mean? If that's building houses, starting families, starting businesses, and it's a serious, you can't keep your life on hold forever. And I suppose in our case at home, we had a family farm, and the time was now, and it wasn't the case of waiting for another couple of years to finish. But yeah, look, I suppose it toughens you up. If you ask me, if I was truth be known, I think lads who are at this physical job, I think you have to make allowances for them in terms of how they train and what they do. And if you don't, I think it's foolhardy because you're burning the candle at both ends, like, you know.
How have you found that, Colin? Like I would say the same. We're farmers back at home as well. You're doing stuff during the day, maybe the other lads aren't. But a lot of managers wouldn't understand maybe that, as Niall says, you're flipping tires or you're running a couple of K around the field after cattle or whatever. Like, I don't think there's a lot. It's very difficult for lads to be able to do that kind of thing at intercounty now, just because of the demands of it all.
100%. Like, intercounty is like it's even further on than what it was 5 years ago. Like it's so.
He'll be back.
I think we can turn this into a farming discussion here in the meantime while we're waiting for.
There's no harm. Go on, jump in. Yeah, we have you now, Colin.
He's back.
Fire away, Colin. No audio, unfortunately, there at the minute. But it is, Niall. I know the two Currys were doing it in Waterford footballers, Stephen Curry and Jason Curry. But it is something that's very difficult. He would have had the farmer from Glenroe, Mike O'Brien, wasn't it?
It's just funny as you're saying it. We'd often be talking. We've there'd be a couple of colourful Monday morning discussions, and we'd be often talking about it. But like, there was, I suppose at that time, I suppose Donny Ryan, the dozer, and bangers from Glenroe, they'd be in the one car coming in. And I suppose they were probably the only two full-time farmers at that stage, and they'd argue they're still the only two full-time farmers. But there was a couple of cameos, like number one, I suppose, when the gym started coming in towards the end of their tether, the two boys would be leaning up in the corner, and they had no more time for this gym. But one very funny story was, I think in Dave Mahedy's time, obviously he'd been a very progressive trainer or whatever else, and I think his daughter Tracy used to come in to do the urine samples, or as we said, she was taking the piss out of us. But there's, I'll never forget there was one summer's day. I'd say it's obviously mid-June, very close in championship, and obviously we're very serious like that. I suppose like the more hydrated you are, the more focused you are, the better you're going to perform and all the rest, right? So the two boys were after covering the silage pit at home, and they were red, raw, burnt, right? So sure, the idea was everyone was given the bottles before the start of training, and sure, naturally, given the day that was in it, most samples were going to be dehydrated anyway. But I saw the two boys giving the sample, not physically now. We saw the sample. Sorry, just clarify that. I saw the sample, and the thing may have been fucking TK lemonade. It was red as red could be. So the boy says, "Hold up a second here now. If we present this, lads, that we could be in jeopardy there for starting Sunday week. Should nothing to do the boys anyway. Only empty out 4/5 of it anyway, and obviously fill up the rest of it with tap water." So end of training comes anyway, and training wasn't going great or whatever else. And next thing was Tracy came and presented the results, and like obviously the stick to beat us was with, like we weren't hydrated, but they picked out two exceptions to the rule anyway. Says but there's two semi-pros there, Mike O'Brien and Dowling Moran. The only two Stevie Wonder would have seen the two boys were like, you know. But yeah, that's they're the funny stories. I'm sure they're there now, but you just probably don't hear them as much.
Carl, is there anything you can tell us about any particularly fond memory you have in the tip camp? Maybe somebody that's gone out of the camp now, an old funny yarn or anything like that, things that happened down through the years. But Bulls was telling us actually recently about, was it you and him?
What was he saying?
No, it was tame enough now, to be fair. He just said before the 14 final, Eamon O'Shea was giving it large in the dressing room or whatever, and he said he looked over at you and you looked over at him, and the two of you were basically splitting yourselves laughing. Everybody else, it was full bore serious or whatever. But any particular fond memories stand out?
Yeah, I used to love the gym sessions. Like John, you come in.
Gone again.
Fucking thing.
You're all right. Fire away.
So Feck was ringing me here, left, right, and centre. But I know I used to love when you come in as a young lad, the older lads, like you'd be going trying to lift more than them and slagging them and all this. But I remember we were doing some deadlift one day, and I said to Shane McGrath, just messing, I said, "Hey, the girls' weights are over there." And he walked on and came back. He said, "Hey, what are you lifting there?" I don't know what it was, and he just said, "That's not going to poke the ball over the bar for you," and just walked off laughing at me like. But, yeah, but like he's right. He's right too. Like, to be honest, he was actually dead right, because no matter how much gym sessions you do and all that, it's still not going to poke the ball over the bar. He was fairly spot on, and I think he was also digging at me that I was never going to score either. So
there's definitely a balance to it all. Colin, we won't keep you too much longer because I know you're under pressure there. But just looking at the championship, obviously unfortunate that you'd love to still be involved. But how do you see, of the four that are left, how do you see it kind of faring? You've obviously faced off against three of them already this year.
Yeah, like, looking at, like, if you were going on form, I would have said the biggest test for Limerick would be Cork in a semi-final. But having looked at the Cork's last two performances and looking at Limerick, then I kind of my head is kind of thinking me that Limerick will have too much. But I do think if Cork are to get over the line, it is against Limerick in a semi-final. I don't think anyone will beat Limerick in the final, to be honest with you. And I originally would have said Kilkenny would beat Clare, because Clare seemed to struggle at the minute in the last 2 years up in Crow Park and against Kilkenny. But I thought Clare were very, very impressive with the last few games. I know Wexford had a man down and there was big significance on that, but my head is kind of telling me Limerick and Clare, to be honest with you.
Final will go this weekend, and what might decide it?
I think in fairness, I think Tipperary were very lucky to get over Galway. I think I think we were very lucky. I wouldn't say we robbed Galway, but I think Galway were fairly very, very unlucky in it. I think winning that and coming through something like that, I think will stand to Tipperary very much so. It kind of reminds me a bit of like the All-Ireland semi-final we beat Wexford in 19, when you had so many things go against you and it was a game that you shouldn't have won. I think that really stood to us in the senior in 2019 going against Kilkenny. So I think that will stand to Tipperary. Having got over that, it was like Galway were very, very strong. Like that young lad full forward that Cahill was marking was extraordinary. Like he's built like a senior hurler. I wouldn't be surprised. He'd nearly start line out for Galway now. I think that will stand hugely to Tip, and I think Tip will get through by a point or two, but I don't think there'll be much in it.
Just last one, Colin, and I won't put you on the spot because I know obviously you're still playing, but of the players that you marked that are no longer playing inter-county, who would you say was the most difficult to mark? Like, we're looking at the likes of, well, you might have come across Niall at some stage. Henry Shefflin. There's plenty more lads. Of the lads no longer playing inter-county, who would have been the most difficult?
I'd say, in fairness, to give Shefflin his due, I think Shefflin will be up there one of the toughest. Even before before even I went marking, like there would have been a lot of thought about Shefflin, obviously, and that kind of brings its own pressure as well because you're marking one of the greats. In fairness to him, yeah, I think Henry would be up there. Like Hoggy, sure, is still flying away. Like in the current game, I'd say, in fairness, Galan would be up there. But what I love about Galan is Galan kind of offers you different things. He offers you a bit of cuteness, a bit of skill, and there's also a bit of dirt to Aaron as well. He's not afraid to dish it out, like, and that's what I like about him. And he'll give you a bit of guff too. Like, he kind of offers you so many different dimensions. Like, he'll challenge you in different ways compared to other lads. I think all rounder he's the most challenging you will meet because it's not just the physical side. It's not just the bit of dirt side, but the dark arts. But it's also his skill level is extraordinary. And in the air, like, he offers so many different challenges. But he would be definitely in the current game. And then, in fairness to Shefflin, I'd put him up there.
Just the last one, because you're after teeing me up there. Do you love that type of thing when a lad is nearly giving it back to you as well?
100%, yeah, 100%. That's what I like. I kind of love the mental challenge first and foremost, and then the physical challenge. Absolutely. And Aaron in fairness to me offers all of those. Like, so I do enjoy marking him, and from what I believe from chatting to him, I think he likes marking me too. So,
Paul, thanks very much for joining us, and hope you're not stuck in the digger for too long.
Lads, sound as bell. I'll send you on the diesel bill.
Cheers, Scott. Good man.
Okay, great to have Carl on there. Yeah, Niall, actually, from your playing days, who did you find, I don't know, who's memorable to be up against in a 1v1?
Tony Brown to me was my kryptonite. Anyway, there's probably a lot of kryptonite, but there were certain guys there you might get something off them. Like, you know what I mean? Obviously, maybe no different to now. You know, the generation we were coming up against the great Cork teams. So obviously, you'd come across your John Gardners, the Sean Oves, Tom Kenny's. So the Kilkenny team was on the road at that stage. JJ and Tommy, you'd have come up against them. But for me, it was Tony Brown. I just thought he could do it every which way. He was an athletic freak. Like, when you think of it, Tony Brown played in county at 40 years of age, 41 years.
Yeah.
Like, that is, it's incredible. Like, and I know things have moved on a little bit since, but not to that extent. I just thought Tony Brown, he could cover more ground. He was greyhound. He could go forward. He could come back. Like, when you think about it, was Tony Brown hurler of the year in 1998?
Yes.
Yeah.
98, and probably played his last game for Waterford. I know the one that was fined in 10, but he was still there thereafter, wasn't he?
I think he's still playing till 14. Did he retire in 14, I think?
13 or 14,
yeah.
Like that longevity. But I suppose what is it? I just couldn't get away from him. As in the other guys there, you might get a couple of balls off him, whatever it is. But on a personal level, look, I just couldn't get away from him. I thought he was an incredible hurler, and I suppose when you meet him, then, like, he's so down to earth and so ordinary and well by you. And I suppose if you met him in the street, you probably wouldn't know that he was the star that he was. But I think maybe even for that generation, you're going on about maybe, I suppose, players like when you think of that Waterford team again, and I know it's probably been often spoken about, but to think that they have had no All-Ireland, you'd love to see how they tee up maybe against the teams of today. Like, I think they'd be very credible opposition over the last 6-7 years for the Kilkennys and Clares and Limericks, I would imagine. Like,
sure, when you look at it, Niall, they came up against two of the best teams. Like, they came up against the great Cork team and the great Kilkenny team. Listen, it'd be like if Kilkenny don't win an All-Ireland over the next 5 years because they're coming up against Limerick the whole time, or if Clare don't win an All-Ireland or win a Munster because they're coming up against one of the best teams of all time. It's a lot to do with timing, really, isn't it?
It is timing, yeah. And I even think the new format would have even particularly suited them again, because you might beat them once, but you struggle to beat them twice. Like, and I suppose, look, they'll forever probably rue 07. So that was the year they felt they were at their peak, and Kilkenny weren't just at their ultimate peak there at that point. But look, I said, that's water under the bridge. There was great hurlers there, and we still have great hurlers now. So I suppose maybe, like, when you think about, again, even Waterford, like, you're talking about Swashbuckling, Milan and Ken McGrath and, you know, like Paul Flynn, like, they were just, I suppose, a lot more colourful, weren't they? Yeah, and even though the teams right now, they're exceptionally gifted, and even the Limerick team, obviously, like, you know what I mean? The Limerick team is probably molded more after the Kilkenny team, and just that they're obviously their overall ability and their mentality monsters on top of everything. Like, they're just machines. Whereas I think for Waterford, I think we all love them because they're a little bit flawed. Do you know what I mean? They sometimes let you down, and I don't think there's any team that you could rightly say they're as colourful as what they are now. Like, and I think what they brought, I know it's probably gone off your original question, so I know I'm on a rant. But I suppose, look, everyone loved watching that Waterford team, and for me, Tony Brown was, I thought he was just incredible hurler. Like.
And Niall, just why Cahill was referring to Brian Callan there, the full forward for Galway, and he looks an exceptional talent. And I'm thinking Tipperary, you've mentioned Ewan Murray already, and a couple of other players have been mentioned. Jake Mullen. I can't remember, is it Mark or Jack O'Neill who's the forward for Clare? I keep mixing up those two lads between the minors and 20s. But just, from your vantage point, being involved in schools hurling and all that kind of stuff, do you think the talent level now is greater than it's ever been, or where are we at?
Well, first of all, Electric Ireland, could have done with a new top from Electric Ireland there, let's like Toby. Nobody sent me they mustn't have known I was coming on to do it. I said the guy you were talking to there is referring to as Mark O'Brien from Clare, I'd say.
Brian, I keep mixing them up.
I know, let's look. Do your research, like, I know, but no, so like, sorry, back to the original question was, where do I see the level of talent, is it?
Yeah.
I suppose, sure, physically anyway, first of all, the lads are ready they're coming off the conveyor belt, they're ready to roll at 18 or 19, like physically, you look at the legs on them, like they're tree trunks right the way across, that's irrespective of counties. Even again, like mentally, they're way more mature, even in your dealings with them as Harty Cup hurlers, like I never had that confidence to maybe even converse with coaches in the way that they had. I wouldn't have had that, I suppose, knowledge or insight to tactically analyse what was going on. I suppose even the confidence within the dressing rooms that you go to, these guys are well capable of, I suppose, weighing up situations and being in the moment, carrying out tactics. So I suppose as a whole, in terms of the package, I suppose, look, Harty's probably 19. Do you know what I mean? At 17, 18, these guys are being exposed to their training age is far greater than what it would have been in years gone by. I suppose the only thing the drawback that I see, and again, it's everybody has their own experience of the split seasons, how it's working, but again, even at underage level, I just think it's way off. I think I'd still prefer my minor to go back to the under 18. Why? Because I think with under 17, you have some guys who might be of a year young who would actually could be 15 years of age playing minor. All right, you're putting them into situations where, okay, well, they're looking into big stadiums. They tend to be on local television on your clubbers and whatnot in early rounds. I think it's an awful lot of added pressure. I also think in terms of how I saw it here in Limerick, and like John, Limerick minor team were a fine minor side, were really well prepared, but it was just happened to be just unfortunately they didn't win any game for the first time in a long time. But even to listen to how they were critiqued locally, I thought it was very unfair. I thought how the management were even critiqued, I thought it was very unfair. And I suppose the way I'd probably look at it is, in old money, when you looked at minor, it tended to be the All-Ireland semi-finals was the first time you'd ever see them on television. All right, and like chances are that was the second, third week in August, whereas now we're seeing minors on television in March a year earlier. So like there's a year and a half of a difference really in the age of the minors that we're critiquing. And I just think it doesn't do anything I don't think it does any positive really for the young lads' development, to be honest. I think you're thrown into the spotlight too soon. You're exposed maybe to you're exposed to a huge amount of tactical elements and things like that, whereas first and foremost in development of the young lads at that age and girls should be the skill development. So like again, look, I know again once again you're probably on a rant, but I'm not the talent has gone through the roof. Okay, the ability has gone through the roof of 17-year-olds, but I would see that the minors should go back to under 18. And I've seen even at schools level, it's cutting across like the tail end of the Munster Leinster competitions and even the Crow Cup, the All-Ireland colleges. It's cutting in across the early rounds of the minor championships. And as I said to you earlier, when you have management being critiqued in the way that they are, do you know what I mean? That puts a level of pressure on them, and with that pressure then comes wanting to have access to players, and then you're cutting across young lads in their school careers when, like, do you know what I mean? That should be their priority at that time. So whether that's moving it back to under 18, or a part of me also thinks, lads, with the inter-county senior season about to come to an end in 3 weeks' time, wouldn't this be a lovely time to have your early rounds of your Munster Leinster championships, and as they move forward, have your All-Ireland moving into maybe the first week in September just before they go back to schools? Do you know what I mean? And wouldn't that take a lot of pressure off young lads doing exams, You've young lads in transition years that don't tend to get to go on trips because they're afraid of missing training. And so I said, look, it's a wonderful competition. Electric Ireland have done a brilliant job in sponsoring it. I can give the home address after if they want to send down a top for it to, do you know what I mean, as a man.
We'll sort that, Niall. We'll sort it. Don't worry. Blue or white? Blue or white?
We'll take both there. Let's the fair woman in the house if she can wear the blue. No, but look, it's a great competition. And I said, I watched. I didn't happen to be at that Kilkenny Clare game, but we were away for the weekend and we got 2 hours watching it, and it was a thriller. It was a thriller of a match. Like, and as I said to you, I think it wouldn't have filled the gap for the next 6 weeks. It wouldn't have filled more than filled the gap. Wouldn't it have been brilliant to watch it? And I don't think that's cutting across your split season either. And do you know what I mean? I said that's just, if they are to stick with it as under 17, which again I think maybe just move it a little bit later, put it in after the Munster finals, the provincial finals start. Let's start your minor championships, and you get far bigger crowds because if they're in the month of March, there's so many matches on, people aren't getting to them.
Niall, I know you're a small bit caught for time, but I just want to ask you quickly about Limerick. Where do you see Limerick at after coming through the Munster campaign? 6 in a row in Munster. Everybody said if they're going to be caught, most people said if they're going to be caught, they're going to be caught in Munster. They weren't caught. They're exactly where they want to be. Like, is there a bit of revenge on their minds as well going into that semi-final?
Yeah, well, as you said, look, they're probably exactly where you want to be. Is there revenge? Whether there is or whether there isn't, it's a psychological edge that they can use. I know that. Look, Cork really, really enjoyed their win, and they're well entitled to enjoy their win. No different to any other county. And I suppose there was a little bit of, I won't say after some players, most definitely there wasn't, but I suppose the Limerick players were they were grey in the face after getting beaten. It was a huge shock to them. And I suppose they would have looked for a couple of nuggets in terms of what it felt like to lose the game. And they don't want to have that feeling again. So look, from that point of view, if they want to use revenge, I don't think they do use revenge, to be honest. They're so process driven, revenge doesn't come into it. So look, I think they're at where they want to be. There's scope for improvement in certain players. You have like Seamus, Sean Finn, these guys, Richie English, another guy into the bargain, all coming back from injury. So they are very positive on where they are. There's a bit of pressure on Cork lads, isn't there? Is there?
I would have said so, yeah.
You know what I mean? I suppose like they're going from 1 week they're out of the championship, and within 8 days they are now chief contenders for the All Ireland. So with that comes added pressure, and maybe has that pressure maybe not helped how they performed in the last 2 games? I suppose you could argue for and against. Look, against Cork they were 20 points to 11 up with 45 minutes gone. Look, in any man's language, you're going to coast home after that. And I know they stopped hurling in for a finish. So, yeah, there'll be concerns, but I don't know if they're genuine concerns. I think a more genuine concern would be that I suppose Alan Connolly and Brian Hayes up front are serious men when they're going right. And I was at that tip game, the couple of games there that they won, obviously. And they just haven't been as good lately. All right, so I suppose they'll want to get that right because Limerick aren't going to leave anything to chance. So it promises to be a very good game. I don't know if we want to get the repeat of 18. If we want to talk about the repeat of 21, well, that was 3-18 to 1-11 at half time. So I don't think any of us want to repeat of that either. But look, if truth be known, I think the other semi-finals where everyone's interest will be thrown to. And again, with a 3 o'clock start for myself and Cahill and the Digger and the Cows, it doesn't bode well for getting up to Dublin for it. Like,
Niall, thanks so much for joining us, and hopefully we'll chat to you again in the not too distant future.
Cheers, Niall. Good man.
Actually,
I don't know what I know what you're saying about Kilkenny and Clare being interested in that, but to me, there's more interest on there is more interest on Limerick and Cork.
Oh, big time. But you know what he was saying about Alan Connolly and Brian Hayes and that, and I saw this at GA_insights. Per data, Cork full forward Alan Connolly has scored an incredible 4-6 from only 12 shots in the 2024 championship, but he hasn't taken a shot since his hat-trick goal against Tipperary. So 0 shots from play versus Offaly in 68 minutes, 0 from play versus Dublin in 44 minutes. So that's 0 shots in his last 133 minutes. And assuming that those stats are correct, and we'll go along with the idea that they are, that's an incredible amount of time to not get into a position to pop a shot, especially when Cork have put up relatively decent scorelines in those games.
Would it suggest Cork are playing a little bit differently in the last 2 games as well? That he's not been fed as he should be been fed, like because he should definitely have got shots away. I looking at the Dublin game, there weren't really that many opportunities. He should have been slipped the ball at one stage, I remember, when they were kind of through on goal. But he's not been fed maybe like he was been in the previous games. Definitely not. And I don't know if that's, as Ben O'Connor said to me one time before, lads trying to get on the scoreboard themselves or trying to make sure that they have a starting berth for the big game, the really big game that's coming. But you'd have to say it's a bit worrying. I know there was illness thrown into that. I think Pat Ryan said he was ill coming into the Offaly game or whatever, but that would be worrying, because you'd imagine if Cork are going to make a big splash against Limerick, that he's going to need 1-2 or 1-3 or a couple of goals or something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, he was against Owen O'Donnell the last day, and O'Donnell had a particularly good day. And wasn't it Ben Keneally when you played them?
No, Kieran Burke, and it was funny, before the ball was thrown in, Kieran Burke was giving it to him before the ball was thrown in. And I just kind of thinking now, if this lad was feeling under the weather or anything like that, you're kind of, you'd be probably thinking twice about it. They're probably not in great form going in, and then you have this lad that's wired to the moon and really, really up for it. And he's probably set a bit of a tone for his team that day, I'd say, as well. Burke did, in fairness.
Yeah, and now, so you've got Cork going in with, I think the expectation has been tempered somewhat by their recent performances. But if you're a forward and you've been shooting the lights out like Connolly has, and, we saw that fairly devastatingly in Tipperary at Sampa Stadium. But like, he's probably feeling the pressure now because, I need to make the impact. I need to get scores. I need to be able to turn Sean Finn, Mike Casey, Dan Morrissey, whoever it might be, Barry Nash. Like, there's got to be a bit of pressure on him. And Brian Hayes had a quiet game the last day. And isn't that partly the difference this year? Those two lads, that they're stepping up to the next level. So there's I don't know. I don't see how anyone could make Cork favourites going into this game.
No, you couldn't. And there's a couple of lads that are going to have to turn it on after it been off for 2 games. Like, the form Cork finished the Munster Championship in was absolutely outstanding stuff. They haven't got close to those levels since. I'd much prefer that's the worry from a Cork point of view, that the bit of consistency is gone again. They're back a lot more like the Waterford performance. The last 2 performances have been like, whereas the 3 performances in the middle were very, very good, particularly the one against Limerick, obviously. See, one of our commenters put it in. I did see, I think it might have been Crackety Ash had it on his Twitter that somewhere in Cork they're selling the result like Cork 328, Limerick 326 in the date and everything like that. And like, you saw how Limerick took motivation from the scenes when Clare beat them last year, and they made that right when they met them again. And they are process driven 100%, but if you're looking for any sort of bit of an edge, you just have to remember, when you were walking off the field that night in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and probably a few people jumping in on top of you. Do you know what I mean? And you just do not forget those things. You don't forget them. I know Limerick supporters, after the Clare game last year, they fairly enjoyed that, didn't they? It's where they're after winning All Ireland, and that was the talk after in Páirc Uí Chaoimh as well. And I've no issue with the celebrations to an extent, but you can be sure that Limerick have bottled a bit of that.
Yeah, and I even remember Kildare beat Dublin in the league a couple of years ago, and there was like a huge Clare flag out on the pitch, and that supporters getting excited, and it's nothing to do with the players or whatever, but it doesn't mean that motivation won't be taken from that. Now, just back to the minor final this weekend, and I was reading in the Nina Guardian some of the interview that Woodlock had done, James Woodlock, going into the game, and he's just talking about all our experiences. I'll be leaning on every one of them, along with Conor O'Brien and the rest of the management team. Every opposition we've played this year and every venue we've gone to, the players know all about it. And obviously he's referencing going down to Nolan Park. They've never been a rabbit in the headlights. Everything has been open and exposed to them. It's always covered for them. That's our job and responsibility for them to be fully prepared. And they will be. We've been performing really well on the road. We went to Rathkeelan and won, and went to Dungarvan and won, and into the Gaelic grounds twice. These players didn't see any of these grounds before. So do you see this venue as a factor? I mean, James can say those things, and he could be totally on the money, but at the same time, it's an All-Ireland final. I don't think there's going to be the crowd that there was in 2022 when your Hordes, couldn't stay away from the ground. You had to get down there. But it's still going to be a big event, and can you prepare a team for an All-Ireland final like that?
It's probably tricky enough. Like, there won't be that sort of 20,000 figure there, but there'll still be a hell of a lot more than they've heard in front of before, probably. The thing about it probably is, like, just say they're not facing an Offaly. It's not going to be 15,000 Kilkenny people there. Far from it. It's probably going to be equal enough. it's quite handy in fairness for Tipperary people. Like Nolan Park is a grand little spin, 40-45 minutes. I even saw a video from Conor Bowe, I saw a video from Reds O'Grady, plenty more. Tipper trying to circle the wagons a small bit and make sure to get as many people there at those games as they can. And I do think that's a group that you can kind of buy into as well. Just the way they play, there's plenty of flair to them. There's plenty of heart and determination to them as well. So I wouldn't really see that being too big of an issue now, I have to say. And you know, I don't see the home venue as being worth that much. I'll put it to you that way.
Did you have any big games with the Offaly Miners in terms of like crowds?
The biggest would have been in 2004. It was a double header. I can't remember who played in the first one, but we played Kilkenny, and this is my minor moment, and it's not a particularly good one, to be honest with you. It was a week after the Leaving Cert, and I hadn't prepared well for the Leaving Cert, so I couldn't really sleep that well at nights at all. Lost about a stone, I'd say. This was the first Leaving Cert. That's why I had to go back and do it a second and third time, just to have so that the positive experiences outweighed the negative. But we were playing Kilkenny anyway, and I knew from weeks out that Richie Hogan was going to be 13 and I was going to be number 4, and you know, I was going to be marking the boy wonder or whatever, and I had it built up in my head as being way bigger than it needed to be. I remember someone said to me about, you know, it's just a game before, and I said, it's not a game. I said, like, this could define my career. That's why I remember saying that. It was like absolutely ludicrous, but way too much pressure on myself. And I was duly skinned with one of the most embarrassing moments of my career. Richie obviously was big into the hand passing, you know, from the handball. And he threw a dummy hand pass at one stage. And I went for a hot dog out in the stand in Dr. Cullen Park. I went about 40 yards the other direction. Ray Murray, who was our goalkeeper, went about 20 yards the other direction. And Richie just tapped the ball into an empty net. And I was left with a scar that took a little while to heal, shall we say. But we healed it eventually. And I got a bit of revenge on Richie in time as well.
But these things happen. And I always say this to like younger players, or, you know, that just because you get hammered in a game at some stage in your life, or just because you take a scutcheon, as you might say, from somebody at some point, that doesn't mean that that's your lot forevermore. You can improve massively yourself. You can, you know, take the beating and come back stronger, figure out where did it go wrong. Like, I think anyone that's been on a team that's won something, it wasn't victory the whole way for the entirety of their lives. Like, I look at, let's say, for example, Borrislee, where I'm from, getting to an All-Ireland. I was only telling someone this morning, that you look at them, the team that got to the All-Ireland Club final and won Munster, fair enough, and Ballyhale were brilliant in the final and won that final. But like a lot of that Borrislee team would have grown up playing at a B level. And, you know, some of them would have been in teams that at times, you know, had tough days. I remember like underage at times, you could be beaten by 20 points the odd time. And I'd say the same about some of the cooler lads that I would have played with as well. You can play in games and get absolutely hammered. I remember playing, there was a Mollerins tournament, you know, St. Mollerins down in Waterford tournament, Ballyhale were in it, and they gave us an absolute runaround. And you would never think that the team would go on to, you know, achieve things. But that's what I'm just saying. Like, that wouldn't have defined you, and other people, fair enough, it can leave a deep scar, but it just doesn't have to be the way it is forevermore.
No, I think sometimes you take a hell of a lot from it as well. And like, I remember, like, the best goalkeeper I've probably ever seen is Brian Mullins from my own club in Barrett, like, and had unbelievable longevity. He played for about 25 years senior. He had an awful day. I remember he talked about it a few times. He had an awful day in a Leinster minor final, a wet day. I think he let in three bad ones. And he basically said after, I remember him reading an interview after, actually, just said he was way too nervous the same day, like way too nervous. And he basically changed his approach thereafter. And I'd say I would have changed kind of my approach a good bit thereafter as well. And sure, the key thing is just to get back on the horse fairly quickly after you play a game a couple of days later. And sure, it's a kind of a distant memory then. You play a half-decent game or whatever. And it's, when you're a young lad, you just don't think about it and you just move on. But yeah, they're some of the best kind of learning experiences you can have, really. The good days are brilliant. But if you're winning the whole time, as Desi Farrell said after the league final this year, that success is a lousy teacher, and he's probably right. Like, you do take more probably from the defeats. You don't want to be defeated the whole time either, but you can often pick up important bits and pieces from those defeats.
Yeah, let's talk about the All-Ireland football quarterfinals this weekend. We'll be coming back talking more hurling, and we're going to have Brian Dowling on the show as well, and he would know that Kilkenny underage team very, very well. But, I think he's just coming on now, so we might actually just stay talking about that. Brian, just there. Brian, how are things with you?
Hi, lads. How you doing?
We're not so bad. Just, I suppose we want to just jump straight into the minor final this weekend. I'm sure you'd know plenty of the lads from St. Kieran's. Number one, what's the excitement levels like around Kilkenny, and what are you looking forward to seeing in this game?
Yeah, there was a great pose in Kilkenny. I think the two semi-finals were absolutely cracking games. Obviously, both of them going to extra time was really exciting. Yeah, look, I know a lot of the lads are in St. Kieran's College there, so a few of them are on our senior panel this year, and a good few will be on the panel next year. So really excited for the lads now on Saturday. Obviously, we're playing Tipperary. Anything to play Tip, it's always a great battle. So look, hopefully the lads get over the line. I suppose they're so young. Some of them are 15, 16 years of age playing in a big final. There's a lot of pressure on, but look, I think the minor this year has been really wide open. The games have been up and down. You know, Kilkenny lost 2 games there in a row, and Leinster looked like things were falling apart. But in fairness to Niall Bergman and the lads, they got it back on track. So looking forward to the game. I think Kilkenny are really doing a lot of pushing on social media there to try to get a big crowd. We're hoping for the Offaly crowd that they had there during their 20 final. So I think everyone wants that kind of a crowd behind their team now. So look, hopefully it'll be exciting and there'll be a big crowd there on Saturday evening.
Just Brian, the spine of your team, by all accounts, they're nearly all underage next year. I think is there 8 of them: Larry Phelan, Jake Mullen, Kevin Buggy, Oisin Henderson, Conor Hoolan, Ollie O'Donovan, Owen Brennan, all underage next year. Like that's a great sign, because they are all like nearly all your leading men.
Yeah, they are, and they're brilliant hurlers, I suppose. And the big thing as well is Bill McDermott is the only survivor from last year's team, which I think is even more impressive. You know, Niall Bergen be a very good friend of mine. He's done brilliant work over the last few years. You know, I would have been disappointed losing to the semi-final last year against Clare, but unfortunately Ed McDermott got sent off after 10 minutes and it was a massive blow. So the turnaround they've had this year is brilliant. I think the aim for the lads was to win that Leinster final was massive. You know, Kilkenny haven't had much underage silverware like we had in the past, so it was important to get some silverware under the belts and then push on then for the All-Ireland. And look, they're there now, and it is a very good Tip team, so they have a big battle ahead on Saturday night.
Hey, you mentioned Bill McDermott, and Bill McDermott has a chance to. It must be a rare piece of history, because his father James captained Kilkenny to win the All-Ireland in 1990, and he'd be doing so 34 years there. I can't think offhand of another father and son that have done it anyway.
No, geez, that'd be unbelievable. I was actually in with James yesterday. He's my dentist, so look, he's you can't get a word in with that man anyway. His needle stuck into your mouth, so he's full of slagging. So no, look, that's unbelievable. Obviously, it'd be an unbelievable achievement, father and son, to captain Kilkenny teams to victory. So look, Bill is a great lad. He's in St. Kieran's. He came on there for the All-Ireland final. In just before normal time, he got a brilliant point for us against Rayfields and Loughrea in the final in March. It turns out, just when he found out afterwards, he actually had glandular fever in that match. We didn't know, so it kind of set him back for a few weeks after, and he's after responding really well now. He got 3 brilliant points the last day, so I look delighted for him. He's a great young lad.
How did you pull that stroke of getting this home minor final?
Actually, you're not good at tossing the coin, I suppose. That's the problem.
It's like Boise's coin and Only Fools and Horses, a double-headed coin.
Exactly,
make sure you call it first. Don't let them call it.
Exactly. Actually, look, you'll have it there next year anyway. So we will head up to you next year.
Sure. Did you see this happening in terms of like Niall Bergen's path in coaching? Did you see getting involved at the county at some point?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Look, Niall was always into coaching in the club. He from a young age he was getting involved. You know, I think he was only 28, 29 that he got involved with. He won the first big thing for him, I suppose, was winning the All-Ireland Féile under 14 with O'Loughlin's. You know, that was a brilliant win. The only time we've ever won the Féile in O'Loughlin. So that was a great victory. And then, look, he would have managed O'Loughlin's under 16 minor. He managed O'Loughlin seniors there for a couple of years. So, look, he's a lot of experience. He managed Danesfort to intermediate county final 2 years ago as well. So, look, he's absolutely brilliant. He was juvenile chairman there in O'Loughlin's for a couple of years, and he was absolutely superb at it. He was the one, I suppose, roped me into getting involved in the underage in O'Loughlin's. Look, thankfully he did, but look, he's just a great organizer. He's big into it, and you know, I think he hopefully get his rewards now on Saturday night.
Just jump back a small bit, Brian. We should have congratulated you first. Obviously, we're in with Kildare this year, your first year in. Job done. I know chatting to you before it all started. That was the main goal for the start of the year. So you must be delighted. There was no real speed bumps along the way. It was you did it pretty well.
Yeah, look, I suppose when I got the job, it was simple. You win the Christy Ring and you get back up to the Joe McDonagh. That was the message. You know, that was what we wanted. That's what the players wanted, management wanted, county board wanted. So, Yeah, look, we won all our group games and then won the final. I suppose Derry gave us 2 very good games. We had to really perform well against them. We went over to London there as well. That wasn't easy. We were kind of through already, but still, they put up a massive battle against us there. But no, look, we got the job done. We're back in the Joe McDonagh next year. That's where the players feel they should be. But look, you have to earn your right up there. I suppose Kildare have never won a game in Joe McDonagh. They've won every Christy Ring game the last couple of years, but haven't won a Joe McDonagh game. So the big thing now is to build on it, stay up there. It's kind of like the Westmeath, Carlow, Laois at the opposite side of it. When they go up to the Lee McCarthy, they're not staying up there. So Kildare are the same. We're not staying up in the Joe McDonagh. So unless you're not going to improve or progress unless you stay up there. So look, they're a very good bunch of lads up there. So hopefully next year now we can really drive it on. Look, it's very competitive. You can see all the teams. I see Carlow draw Kilkenny, and now they're back down in Joe McDonagh. So look, that's what you're up against. But look, you have to meet these challenges head on now, and looking forward to it.
Is there anything unexpected you met going into, let's call it a spade, a football county, and did that add any challenges that you weren't expecting or weren't used to from Kilkenny, where it's hurling only?
Kilkenny's a big football county now.
Pull the other one now.
County final is over about two months ago there, I think. It was played on a Thursday night. No, look, I suppose there's always challenges. Yeah, look, it is something I haven't dealt with before. I suppose football is the number one sport in Kildare. They probably have a priority to main pitches and stuff like that. But look, we're just trying to drive it on as much as we can, look after ourselves. The county board have been supportive to me since I've come in there. So look, just really need their backing now to drive it on. We feel we're in a good place at the moment. The players, it's a very good young squad. The average age is, I think, 22, 23. We've a couple of players that weren't there last year that more than likely will be back next year coming. So look, this is the time now to really shine and cash in on it. Because if this generation don't perform or don't kind of do the business, Joe McDonagh is going to have negative effects down the line. So it's important that we really build on this now and drive it on for the next year or two.
How did you find the time demands in that, Brian? Bit of an eye opener, I'd imagine.
Yeah, but look, I suppose it wasn't much different to the Camogie. It was similar, but I suppose the hardest time for me is when Kieran's College gets going. You're playing matches, the Leinster games and the All Ireland series are on Saturdays, and you're playing with Kildare then Saturday and Sundays, and you're training. So you have different puck-out strategies and all the stuff going around your head. You don't know what's going on, whether it's Kieran's or Kildare half the time. But no, look, it's enjoyable, but it's just that couple of weeks, I suppose, I found very tough. It is, look, it's hugely demanding. There's a lot of pressure. We're expected to win the Christy Ring, but that brings on huge pressure. Like, if we didn't win it, I suppose it would have been looking at me, why didn't we win it? So there was, a lot of pressure to make sure we got over the line there. Look, it was an enjoyable year. There is a lot of pressure and a lot of work goes into intercounty management, but I suppose the way I looked at it was heavy going there for a few months, but it was finished the June bank holiday weekend. So this is the first summer now that I think I've ever had off between playing and managing. So I don't know what to do with myself.
Just the last one quickly. You brought a Tipperary man with you as well. A Kilkenny man bringing a Tipperary man up to Kildare.
Yeah, look, Richie Root, I suppose now we nearly call him a Kilkenny man now. He's so long. He's so long in Kilkenny at this stage. No, look, Richie is he's been working with me in Kieran's for the last number of years, and he's an excellent coach, really enthusiastic. I suppose, look, when I try and put my backroom team together, I was lucky enough that Nigel O'Hara stayed involved from the last 2 years. Nigel's an excellent coach. He's actually a Kilkenny man, but he's been living in Kildare now for a number of years, and David Herty had him involved for the last 2 years. He's top class. So, and Richie then came in. It's brilliant to get Richie involved because, I suppose when you're getting a coach involved, you don't really know what he's like. But I knew what I was getting with Richie, so I was delighted to bring him up with me. And Fikro Minacon then played for Kildare, so he kind of brings us back into, he's a Kildare man in the backroom team, so it's great to have him there as well.
And just in terms of your own minor moments, I just happened across this photo online here.
Oh,
I think this is back in 2001. What do you remember of playing minor, and just in general, any particular highlights?
There was no strength and conditioning back then anyway, I can definitely say that. Look, I absolutely loved it. I suppose I didn't love it in 2000 because we were on the first team that it was 10 in a row. Was it going for 10 in a row or going for 11 in a row? It was Leinster semi-final against Verney's Offaly there down in Carlow. I was a sub the same night. I came on and I can't remember who got the goal. It could have been Rory Hannify could have got a goal. And Offaly went out to 10 points up, and I'll never forget the roar and it run onto the pitch. I said, oh, geez, this is going to be a disaster. And Offaly bet us by, I think, 8 points. and we're getting our medals with Kieran's college the same night, and Brian Carroll coming back, and he couldn't take the smile off his face back at the
Jesus
function.
Lord Christ.
It was absolutely sickening, so it made it all even worse. But
that was a root and branch. There was a root and branch analysis after that minor loss. Am I right in saying that? Yeah,
there was. Yeah, look, I suppose we would have heard things in the background afterwards that none of these lads will play for Kilkenny again, and the likes of Tommy Welsh and JJ Delaney, Aidan Fogarty, Conor Phelan, all these lads were playing that night. But no, they went back and looked at the development squads. They had to change things, and then the following year was my last year minor, and we were back down in Carlow again against Dublin. I guess this time against Dublin Leinster semi-final, and Dublin Colleges had beaten us with Kieran's in Leinster semi-final just a few weeks before that. It was a massive shock, and I think Dottier Collins scored 1-3 in the first 5 minutes. We were losing. Oh, geez, we're getting bet here again. But we turned it around, and we got to Croke Park, the Leinster final we played before the senior match, and we bet Wexford. And then the All-Ireland semi-final that year, then we lost to Cork. I suppose if there was one game that I could go back and play again, that would be it. It's Tanto Halpine scored, I think, 3 goals that day. We actually ended up being a very good friend of him after in college, but he broke our hearts that day. We lost by a point, lost by 4 in the end, but it was draw going into injury time. It was absolutely heartbreaking. You just want to get to All-Ireland final day in Croke Park. That was the dream, and we didn't do it. But in fairness, there's a good few lads on the rage year after, and they went on and did back-to-back, like Sacha and Richie Power and these lads, so I was delighted for them afterwards.
So what was Halpine like in terms of the crack?
He was mad, absolutely mad as a hatter. Didn't drink at all, but he'd be dancing around like he was the drunkest man in the place.
Probably like this lad here.
Yeah, like himself there. Yeah. No, look, he was a character. He was just absolute character. I hurled freshers with him there. He got sent off in a club game, and he missed the freshers final, and we lost to UCD in a freshers final because he was missing. But no, look, got to play Fitzgibbon, won Fitzgibbon with him, and then 2004, obviously, then he decided to go off to Aussie rules. Just all happened overnight, I suppose. But no, look, he was a top class hurler. I think that year in 2004. I think what he brought to the Munster Championship and the All-Ireland Series was 2003, was absolutely top class. I remember I was at that. I went down to that Munster final, the one where Milan scored the 3 goals, and was having a bit of crack with the lads and the behind the goal during the match. But Santa scored a goal that day, I remember, and that was the day the celebration started with the hands going down. So no, he was a breath of fresh air. He was a brilliant character.
Santa Claus is delivered again. Santa Claus famous line in Croke Park, I think, didn't he?
That was it. That was in the All-Ireland in 2003 against Kilkenny. Yeah, he broke through, and James Riley done a great job on him, but he broke through that time. He got a goal, and yes, that was one of Sarah's line. Yeah, Santa Claus is delivered again.
Brian, would you have believed that like when Kilkenny last won the minor in 2014 against a Limerick team that has some of the modern greats of hurling, that we'd be waiting this long again before Kilkenny might win an All-Ireland at minor? No,
definitely not. I suppose Kilkenny were used to winning minors under 21s back in the day, and I suppose between now senior minor under 20, I know the under 20s won a couple of years ago. But look, silverware we haven't got as much as we would like in the last number of years. And I suppose 2014, if someone said you wouldn't win an All-Ireland, it would be a huge shock. But look, they have been getting to finals. That's the only thing, But they came across against a lot of good Galway, really good Galway teams. Look, it is important to win these things, but I think it's important to get there. I think this year's championship, the way it's structured now is brilliant because, back in the day, you might get one game in a Leinster semi-final and get beaten. Like, that's no kind of progression for a young lad. Where a lad now is playing 6 or 7 games in the championship, that's unbelievable experience. Whether you win or lose, that really helps the lad driving it forward. And they're very, very young as well. Well, the only thing I'd say I'd like to see different, I do think the finals should be in Croke Park. I think there should be something that they should do there. We're very lucky in the colleges. We're after getting to play in the colleges final the last 3 years, and there's some buzz there. I remember when I was playing minor, that was the dream. Like, if you get to Leinster final, you're playing in Croke Park. Like, that's what you wanted to do. I know the lads, they don't care where they're playing on Saturday night. Nolan Park would be an unbelievable occasion, but I do think, I don't know when it should be before maybe an All-Ireland semi-final even, but I think it'd be a great experience for the lads that they're playing out in Croke Park.
Mm. And there's a comment there saying, what was the minor team in 2014, if I have it at hand? I just looked it up there. So
John Walsh was the man, didn't he? Didn't
John Walsh got man the match in the final. Yeah, he got 2-4, 2-5, I think.
Alan Murphy got 6 points. Is that Ronan Corker and Liam Blanchfield? Yeah, John Walsh with 2-5.
Sean Morrissey was on it, I think, was he?
He was. Dara Joyce was centre back. Pat Ling was there. Young Tommy Walsh. Connor Delaney. On the other side, then, and on the other side, it's a bit of a who's who in terms of like current county stars. Sean Finn is there, Keane Lynch, Seamus Flanagan, Tom Morrissey, Ronan Lynch was there, Barry Nash was full forward, Peter Casey, Barry Murphy, who's still on the panel. Jesus.
That Limerick team really came to nothing, didn't it, after it?
Christ almighty. And like, I don't know, Brian, how much of a chance you've had to see this Tipperary team coming into this minor final, and maybe Richie Root of Thurles would have spoken to you about Killian Minogue and maybe Ewan Murray and some of the talents they have coming. But if you've had a chance to look at the Tip team, where would you be concerned in terms of the Premier?
No, I haven't been much, I suppose. I suppose when you're involved in inter-county, you're watching so many matches back. I haven't really been looking at too many. I've seen a bit of the All-Ireland semi-final, that was all I saw. But I did see Ewan Murray play. We played him Thurles CBS in a challenge game there earlier on in the year, and we watched him in some of the hearty games. He's definitely a top-class talent. I know he plays kind of the centre-forward, Keane Lynch kind of role. He drops deep and gets on a lot of balls. So Kilkenny are definitely going to have to match up him. Look, from what I've seen and what I've heard, the highlights Tip, they're a very well organised team. I know James Woodlock's a good manager. Conor Foxy O'Brien there, he's another good friend of mine. He's an excellent lad to be involved in the team. I'm sure he's driving them on there in the background. So, look, in fairness to the lads, to get to 2 All-Irelands in 3 years is fair going as well. I'm sure they'll be looking for the same results as they had 2 years ago. Verney won't want to forget that game. But, they're a good team. And, look, it was minor. The big thing for the minors at this age is, are they going to turn up and perform? That's the big thing. When you're involved in the team, managers, I suppose, you can have everything set up, but big occasion, you just want your players to turn up and perform. And they're just, some of them are so young, like Jake Mullen is still underage next year, and he's been talked about like he's a top class hurler. But like he's been talked about as the main man. Like that's just a lot of pressure on him.
Just there is talk, Brian, that this is your best crew in maybe 20 years at minor level. I know it's a good bit of pressure on their shoulders or whatever, but remember that 02-03 crop was savage. Like Jesus, it was a Richie to mention, but a few there's similar kind of talk around this team, and even that this is coming even a year or two soon.
Yeah, I think next year's team would have been fancied a lot. I think I said this year the big thing was to win the Leinster. That was massive, and I suppose once they won that, then they seemed to perform really well against Galway in the 2 games in Leinster. And, obviously against Dublin, they lost against Wexford, but they scraped over the line in the Leinster final. The 2 Galway performances were excellent. And, I think apart from the start, the last day against Clare, I thought they were the better team. I know the sending off probably did affect Clare as well. But no, look, it is a really good team. I said I know a few of the lads from school, and, we're badly in need of a Richie Hogan, a TJ Reid, a Richie Power, one of these kind of superstar forwards breaking through. And I think we have 1 or 2 of them. I think Collier O'Donovan's a top-class little corner forward there. Unfortunately, he's in the Kilkenny CBS, but, he's an excellent player. And Jake Mullen, obviously, we have him in Kieran's. He's excellent as well. I remember I only seen him this year for the first time playing in a game in Kieran's in junior hurling, and I looked out and I actually thought it was Adrian Mullen playing there for a minute. He's just he's a carbon copy of everything he does. But look, he's a great young lad. He's top class, and I think he definitely has a great future. But a few of them will, and there's a few lads there that work really, really hard, and a few lads maybe aren't the shining stars now, but as you all know, they'll be the lads that will play for Kilkenny in a few years' time. That's just the way it goes.
And as soon as you mentioned a couple of the stars that are there at the moment in TJ Reid and so on, where do you feel Kilkenny are at coming into the All-Ireland semi-final? And, from what you've seen of Clare, specifically the last day against Wexford, where do you think they're at?
Yeah, look, I suppose the hardest thing for Kilkenny against Clare is that Kilkenny have beaten Clare twice the last 2 games, and Clare probably favourites going into both of them. Obviously, 2 years ago, they never turned up at all. Last year, I suppose they got their tactics wrong. They played a sweeper, played in Kilkenny's hand, and when the second half, when they went at Kilkenny, they really had Kilkenny in trouble, only for that sharp hook out that we overturned and Nolan Cody got the goal. Look, again, I think Kilkenny have a great chance, but Clare are a good team. If Clare turn up, it's going to be a really, really tight game. I don't think they're at their best against Wexford, but I think that game was just to win that game, get through it. Tony Kelly getting 5 points in play. I think putting a midfield is a masterstroke. I think that's the right thing to do for Clare. Mikey Butler probably doesn't come out to midfield to follow him. I think last year it suited him to go out there because Kilkenny had Richie Reid sitting back anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I don't think you're going to take Mikey from corner back out to midfield to mark Tony Kelly. So look, I think Tony will be happy now that Mikey is not there around him in Croke Park. I think he'll have a bit more freedom. So Kilkenny really have to come up with what to do there. But look, Shane O'Donnell, I think, is obviously, you know, he's definitely hurler of the year so far. The form he's in, he's just absolutely top class. Well, Kilkenny, I suppose, it's hard to know where we're at, because you look back at the Carlow performance, the Dublin performance up in Parnell Park, like, they weren't good, but, you know, against Dublin in Croke Park, you know, Dublin didn't turn up that day, but Kilkenny are absolutely top class in everything they did. The work rate, everything they were doing that day. They're definitely trying to play a bit different. They're working the ball out. There's players dropping back for puckouts now that never happened before. You can see different things happening. So, look, I'll give Kilkenny every chance. You know, I think anytime we think Kilkenny are going to get bet, they all turn up and win. So, look, it'll be a great game again, I think.
Their graph is trending upwards, Brian, a bit, isn't it? Like, with the way, like, they have everybody nearly back now. I know Donnelly's probably carrying a knock, but it looks like he's just going to play on with that thumb knock that he has. Mikey Carey's probably the only doubt. But, like, Leinster was stuttering a small bit. Big performance in the final. You won't be expecting a big semi-final performance again.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, I was listening to your own podcast there during the week. You know, in fairness, John Milan and Eddie Brennan said it, and it's 100% right that every Kilkenny and Limerick are the two teams that just turn up every single day. Like, and you know, I know Kilkenny will turn up. Whether performance is good enough, I don't know. Like, there's days when Kilkenny teams probably haven't been the best team, but they always turn up. And you know, Derek, in fairness, has brought that on from Brian Cody, that these Kilkenny teams fight to the end. Even I was at the league final, and I thought Clare were by far the better team. But Kilkenny nearly won that game. If Owen Cody's penalty goes in, Kilkenny would have won the game. You know, see Common coming in there, timing the run. You have to time the run, you know, and that's probably what Kilkenny have done. And they have had a lot of injuries, as you said. You know, you see how effective Adrian Mullen was the last day. He was absolutely unbelievable. I'd love to have seen his GPS results after that game. He was collecting the ball in the full back line, and then 60 seconds later, he's popping the pint over from 60 yards at the other end of the pitch. So he's very hard to stop. You know, you go man for man on him, you know, you're leaving massive space. So I don't think Clare are going to leave a player +1 this time. I think they're going to go at Kilkenny. I think they'll learn from their mistakes. They'll go at them. You know, they have top class forwards as well. So I think it'll be a high scoring game. I think it'll be an absolute cracker.
And do you think Cork have another big enough performance to beat Limerick a second time?
I was on this podcast before, and I tipped Cork to win the All Ireland. Now that didn't go too well, so
we've all been there, Brian. We've all been there.
So I don't know what to say about Cork. Look, geez, we all saw what they did down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh that night. They were absolutely top class. But I suppose even how good they were that night against Limerick, like, you know, what did they concede that night? You know, that's always the worry for Cork, is what are they conceding? You know, I suppose the worst team that you can beat in a championship and have to meet them again is Limerick. You know, at times it's hard enough. Even Paul Kinnerk and John Kiley would ever do in that 15-minute slot. They're able to fix things. They've had 4 weeks or whatever it was since that Cork game to look at things. They're going to look exactly, and they're going to know, like, if Cork are going to pump high ball down the middle and try to beat them with puckouts and stuff like that, like, Limerick are going to have that sussed out. Like, you know, they're just, I've never seen a team like them, the way they can react to different teams and the way they're able to change it. Go back to last year's All-Ireland semi-final against Galway, and Galway had him on the rack and they were playing him off the pitch, and Limerick just tweaked a couple of things, and, you know, next minute they're on Galway are on the back foot and they couldn't turn it around. So look, you can't back against Limerick. I think Cork are going to have an absolutely massive game. It's going to have to be a shootout. I don't think they're going to win a tight game, because I don't think the Cork backs are good enough, but they have good enough forwards. Darragh Fitzgibbon bursting through from midfield. So look, I give them every chance, but look, obviously you'd have to favour Limerick. They're just so good. You know, if Darragh Donovan is back there as well, Shamie Flanagan coming back, like, you're talking about Kilkenny being full strength, they have full strength. Like, who do they leave off the team? Like, you know, does Shane O'Brien lose out after getting man the match the last day? You know, it's Colin O'Neill's in top class form, so they've Bag of Riches there at the moment, and they're unbelievable.
You're talking about time in the run. They've everyone back now, nearly, outside of Peter Casey. They're going to have everyone back for the games that they need to have them back. I don't know if you heard, you were saying about them reacting there. Shane O'Donnell had a good quote during the week, basically saying that Limerick have all the cameras and that you can see see what people are saying or what changes they were making. And it's like, I don't know if he was hinting at some sort of conspiracy theory going on or something, but Jamie Mack, that must be the 53-man backroom team that I think was talked about.
Davy Fitz was on about that there last year after the All-Ireland final as well. He was sitting up and he was saying something about the cameras and how unreal it was, and Limerick had the cameras up there and they had access to them, so he was kind of saying that a bird's eye view. So whether there's someone up there and they're looking down at it and passing the information on to Paul Kinnerk, John Kelly. Look, as a manager, I'd love to be up there myself and get to see everything, but you know, I think I have to be on the sideline anyway. But I definitely think you need someone from your backroom team has to sit up there, and I think, you know, up around, you know, where the cameras are. you get to see absolutely everything. But Limerick they hurt you in so many ways. They can go, they can hit the ball direct, they can work to the lines. If you're hitting puck outs, if you go long, you're hitting down to the half back line. They're just catching ball. If you go short and you have that the full forward line, the just way to close you down is unbelievable. Like, they just swarm you. And if they close you down 2 or 3 times, what's your keeper going to do? He's going to go long. I think that's where Clare faltered in the Munster final. They just kept going long the last time. Peter Duggan was probably the only option. So Limerick knew that was coming from the first day they met down in Ennis, and they just swarmed them, got bodies around. Cork probably made a few errors the last day against them as well and went short. You have to, I know there's people in the stand giving out to lads are going short, but you have to be able to do both. And Limerick can do both so well, and they're able to stop both so well. So I don't know, Limerick just have to have an off day, but the hunger that they have is just unbelievable.
What'll be fascinating as well is to see the amount of joy that Cork got off the long ball, but they've basically wised Limerick up to that fact now, and I think Limerick have gone after that, and that we're not going to be penetrated in the half back line. So Cork got loads of joy off that the last day. There has to be an alternative, and probably another alternative after that, because they can't just put, like, Limerick are forewarned for that one. So it's going to be interesting to see from a Cork tactical point of view what way they'll have to find another way to skin a cat this on Sunday week, I'd imagine.
Yeah, like, again, you can't go and do the same thing. You're going to have something different. I suppose, in fairness to Cork, they couldn't hold back anything the last day because, obviously they had to win that game no matter what. And that puck out definitely won that game for them. They got some joy off it, and I was watching that match back, again on video, and it's just the way their movement off waiting for that breaking ball, the Cork was unbelievable. But look, they're going to have to come up with something different, but Cork will be ready as well for that. Limerick will be ready for that, as I said, with their forwards. If you go short, they will hound you down, and they will get turnovers. No better team to get turnovers than them. So I suppose Cork, one way around it maybe is get their half forward line a little bit deeper and try to create space in front and try and drag that half back line all over the place. Dermot Burns and Kyle Hayes, they want high ball coming down top of them. I'm sure they don't want to be following lads around Croke Park. Cork have the pace to get around, so they're going to have to try to come up with something different, maybe overload different sides and things like that. But it's been an interesting battle ahead.
Brian, when you're managing on the sideline, what do you find the biggest challenge? Or obviously you can't get the Mayor Furna in the way you used to be able to before, so that's one thing that adds to it. But like, in terms of trying to change a game mid-flow, you've got 30 players out there all doing something. It's very hard. Like in soccer, you've got maybe, I think the structure of even having offside makes it a little bit easier to tweak things, and the formations are a little bit more settled than you have in hurling. Like, what do you find the biggest challenge in terms of trying to change things?
Yeah, like you said there, any match in Croke Park, anyway, it's absolutely impossible. I can't understand how the Mayor Furna has not brought back into it. You should be allowed to bring on, get 3 messages on or whatever, and that's it. And if anyone takes the mick out of it, then that's it, they're gone. You get banned for the next match or something. I know Gregory Kennedy there catching that ball down Nolan Park 2 years ago, it didn't help things, but it is so hard to get messages in. Like, even the Christy Ring final, we were trying to make a swap from one corner back to move on to another forward, and it took like 4 or 5 minutes, and you're shouting at other players to get that message in. And then and then lads are getting the wrong. Like, I think it was in the Colleges All Ireland final. We're trying to get a message in, and one of the lads started shouting the messages. We're playing a sweeper, and we weren't trying to play a sweeper. We were trying to get someone to push up, and we ended up playing a sweeper for 5 minutes in the first half, and we didn't do it all year. And that was the message that went in, and we had to wait till half time to change it. It's so hard. You just feel so helpless. But then again, look, that's where I suppose you have to have your team as prepared as possible. You have to have leaders on the pitch that they can kind of look at things. If you do have puck out strategies and they're not working, you have to have your plan B and stuff like that. I know Davy Fitz has up to plan Z, but I wouldn't be going that far. But you need to have your plans, a couple of plans in place. Players need to be comfortable with them, be able to change on the pitch. Even I kind of would say to a couple of players, just, if you are around the manager's zone, whatever, just come over to us and try and we pass on the message. Make sure that message gets on to everybody. You're not allowed have your hurl carriers mic'd up at the other side of the pitch. That used to help. You could get message in. You can't do that now either. So
Apple Watches, Brian, I believe.
Apple Watches, yeah. Must get on to Kildare County Board to buy a few Apple Watches. I'm sure they'll be delighted with that.
and then another thing, like, the way you feel like, okay, we need to push up on the opposition, because more and more teams are really good at working the ball around the middle area, popping the hand passes and all that kind of stuff. But then if you do push up, sometimes you're leaving 1v1 inside 30, 35 yards of your own goal, and you're like, if the right ball goes in here, you're kind of throwing a lad to the wolves. So that's another really, really tough thing, Brian, because you're like, we have to just hope that guy can survive back there, or that we slow up the ball coming in. That's a really tough one too.
Yeah, and I learned that the hard way last year in the league against Cork Camogie. Like Cork are the best Camogie team at working the ball out, and they're very good at going short. And when they get the ball, they're brilliant at getting overloads, and they'll have players coming off the shoulder. And we were playing them in the league in Nolan Park last year, and we were back from a team holiday a couple of weeks, and we probably weren't at the fitness levels we should have been at that stage. So I suppose we said we'd push up on them so that they didn't get the opportunity to run at us. But they were very clever then. They dropped their half forward line really deep, and they just kept making angle runs, and we got absolutely cleaned out. That's why you hear people when I hear people saying just push up on them. Like, it's not as simple as just push up on them. Like, that's great in theory, but if any team is well coached, they'll absolutely annihilate you at the other end. Like, if you push up on Limerick, their half forward line, you've seen what happened in the All-Ireland 2 years ago, Kilkenny. And I think Kilkenny had planned for that players were going to stay on either side of the wing, but they just got confused and ended up following their old Hegarty, Tom Morrissey, Kyle Hayes up there that day, and they just ran everywhere. And you can't, in Croke Park of all places, you can't cut down that space. If you're leaving space, if you start deep on the 45 and you leave 40 yards in front of you, you're going to clean the opposition. So that's where, I suppose you see a lot of teams now are getting the full forward line dropping out and letting the corner back have it, and then you have an extra body maybe back in the half back line. That's probably the best way to defend it. But again, if a good team is able to work it out, that's it. But I suppose if a team gets 1 point, you have the outlet in the stand going absolutely mental, saying to push up, not even though the last 10 you might have broke down, but ignores all them. So, look, it's get the balance right. Depends who you're playing. If a team that has speed like Cork do even as well, it's very hard to defend that 1v1, and as you said, on that 45, 65 yard line.
I mean, you live and die by these decisions, because if it goes wrong once, okay, it can happen. But if it goes wrong a couple of times, then Brian, you are the ape, and how was he ever let in here in the first place?
That's exactly it, and that's what I'm saying. Like, it's funny, you see one or two, and even as manager, like, you might see one ball going to corner back, and he might do something with it and end up in the score, but like the other 10, you might have got turnovers on your 65. And you'll have stats saying that you got beaten on 15 sharp puckouts, but where did them sharp puckouts go? Did you overturn them on your own 65? Did the opposition, did it break down in the middle of the field? So I think it does, I think you have to look at the outcome from the puckouts, what's actually happening. If a team is going long, are they damaging going long, or damaging going short? And you have to try and force them to do what they're not good at. Like, if you have a good, strong half back line in the air, and the goalkeeper is not able to pinpoint the ball, which some of them can't, well, then you can push up a bit tighter and force them long. Again, you have to, suppose Galway Camogie would be a good example of that. Sarah Healy had an unbelievable puck out, so we would have wanted her to go short and get to a corner back who didn't have as long a puck out. Sarah Healy puck out used to go nearly on the 21 with a bit of wind, with a strong wind. So I suppose, again, you have to play the cards you're dealt with, and the opposition, you have to alter to that as well.
Do you get much of a chance to watch the Kilkenny Camogie team anymore? They're playing Tip this weekend. Again, you have Nolan Park. You have it off to a tee.
No, that's up in the rag.
All right.
Yeah, no, you have that one, yeah.
Is that not a bit of a mad one? Yeah, like, it's they're close enough in times, are they, as well?
They are. Now, in fairness, the only thing I'd say is, like, that fixture would have been in place for a long time. So Tip have home advantage. So Tip would have to give up home advantage, and it's a massive game, because whoever wins is guaranteed an All-Ireland semi-final spot. Whoever loses is into the quarterfinal. So it's a massive game. So in fairness, like, you'd be asking Tip to give up home advantage, and that's the reason why. If it was a neutral venue, obviously, then it should have been in Nolan Park, or if it had to be Possible, but it wasn't. It was, that fixture was there. But back to answer the question, no, because of Kildare, I suppose the matches have just clashed all the time. I was only at one game. It was the league game against against Tip in Nolan Park. I just kind of find it hard to watch it anyway. I'm following everything, but just find it very, very hard to watch. I spoke to a few managers who were kind of similar position a year out. I just find that first year very, very tough. You're coming being so involved, and it's your whole life, and now you're not involved at all. You don't know what's going on. You look and see what the teams are, who's playing where, what's kind of going on. But I suppose I'm just trying to taking a step backwards from it. Obviously I'm following and wishing the Peter Clear and all the players the best of luck, but just trying to follow them hopefully to do well. You know, if they get to, I suppose, quarter-final, semi-final, final, I'd definitely be there. But for now, just taking a step back. And it just with matches, with, you know, we were nearly playing the same days, nearly all the time has gone. Like some of our matches were up and down and up in Tyrone and in London, so we were gone for all weekend. So, you know, I just didn't get a chance to go, I suppose.
Hey, you've been very busy the last couple of days by all accounts yourself, have you?
Well, yeah. I was doing a lot of running the last month. I didn't get it all done the last couple of days. So, I just took on a challenge there. Another teacher in Kieran, Richie Windle, the two decided to do it for Laura Lynn Foundation. You know, I think it's nothing personal to me. Thank God I don't have my own kids or nobody around me is going through it. But, you know, there is families going through it. It's for anybody, kids that have cancer or palliative care. So it's somewhere to go, you know, for them when they're really, really sick. So look, it was just to run 50 miles, 80k in the month of June. I suppose got into running the last year. Wouldn't have been a big fan of it up to then, but, you know, trying to do it during lunchtime at school and stuff like that. So, no, I've been doing it for the last month and it was a very worthy cause. So look, delighted to get it done there yesterday. I'm going to Berlin for the weekend. So over to the soccer match tomorrow. So I thought it was important to get it done because I don't think I'll get it done over there. So no, look, delighted to get it done and delighted that raised, you know, I think we raised over 3,200 there now. So it's going to a very worthy cause.
You won't be doing it in Berlin. You'll jump on a scooter over there. I met scootering around Berlin one time. This is great crack, though, I have to say.
Jeez, I think I'll stay off them Yorks now. I think I'll be walking around and getting a few taxis, that's it.
Which game are you going to?
Switzerland and Italy now, if I can get tickets for it. So
not so bad. Have you been watching much of the Euros?
Yeah, watching it all. Love it now because, you know, again, I suppose when you're involved with teams, you just don't get to watch these other sports. And even, I suppose, when I'm involved with teams, I'm so distracted that I feel guilty watching a soccer match. I'd feel like, okay, I need to be doing something for hurling. I need to be watching the match, or I need to be doing something for training. I need to be talking to a player. So now we can just watch and enjoy it. You know, I've loved watching the hurling and stuff in the last couple of weeks as well. No, really enjoying the matches. I think the last couple probably, you know, haven't been great. Some of the England matches there have been desperate, but no, it's exciting. I think it'll be good now between now and the knockout rounds from here on in. Starting probably missing out tonight and tomorrow, but looking forward to the matches on Saturday and you know, the rest of the tournament then.
Okay, well, Brian, you've been brilliant with your time. Really, really appreciate it. And fair play on that Laura Lynn stuff as well, because that's really important. Well done.
Yeah, no matter. Thanks a million, lads.
Cheers, Brian. We didn't ask for a prediction from him, but I have a fair idea who he's going to predict. A load of people keep asking me for a prediction because they're saying I'm neutral, but then someone else comes in and says, obviously he's not neutral. I do think Kilkenny will win. I think it'll be a one-score game, but I think Kilkenny will win. But I tell you something, and if they do win, like obviously, because most people are saying that they're a stronger team next year, like it'd be a massive thing for them if they get an All-Ireland on the board this year. And you have the two provincial champions as well, which I think is always good, that the cream is kind of rising. The two teams that won their two provinces have come through like really ropey semi-finals, and they're going to play. It should be a cracking game now too.
Yeah, both teams benefited from red cards to the opposition in the All-Ireland semi-final. I just can't really pick a winner in this game. I look at the Tipperary side, and again, I know we've mentioned one or two of the players' names. They're so young. I don't want to fixate too much on the names and put any pressure on, but I'm really happy with the quality of the players that Tipperary have. I'm really happy with like the doggedness of the team. To be fair to James Woodlock, his teams over the past few years really have had that.
They resemble himself, kind of, don't they?
Yeah,
and like playing career.
And they're an imperfect team as well. Like I wouldn't say like Tipperary are constantly polished up and down the pitch. Like there's a fair bit of get the ball and drive it up the field as well. You know, obviously they're like, and I would be fully believing that you need a bit of that too. So I think there's a bit of class up the top, bit of class in the half forward line as well. A lot of good things about that team, and I totally respect the quality that Kilkenny have on the other side. I think it'd be puck of a ball either way. I mean, I'm going to say Kilkenny are going to come up short against Tipperary. Of course I am. But, you know, you couldn't call it either way. But obviously you will wear Tip colours on Monday if Tipperary is through.
Do I have any? I'll wear my Dylan Quirk jersey, absolutely no problem whatsoever. But I think this is the best minor final in a while in terms of quality and really exciting players that you're thinking, oh,
more exciting than 2022, awfully Tip.
Well, I wouldn't have said, just saying, I wouldn't have said that Tip would have like stood out, that there would have been a load of stars before that game, that you would have said there's been a load of stars. On an Offaly side, maybe 1 or 2, but I think there's 3 or 4 on both sides coming into Saturday's game. I have to say, I think it's going to be a cracking game.
It'll be interesting to see over the next 15 years how many of these names will continue on. Okay, let's talk about the All-Ireland quarterfinals coming up this weekend. What one jumps off the board for you? Dublin, Galway, Armagh, Roscommon, Kerry, Derry, and Donegal Louth.
Probably 2. Dublin, Galway, I think is interesting, and I think Kerry is very interesting as well. On Derry, Kerry, it's just like, what's the balance here? Are Kerry fresh or undercooked? Are Derry battle hardened or fatigued? And it's what is the balance there? My hunch would be that Derry would be a small bit fatigued, and I think that Kerry will be fresh. I'm not totally buying into the Derry, the hype that's maybe getting going around Derry again because of getting back on the horse and getting the 2 results that they needed. I probably think it'll be not convincing, but I think Kerry could win by 5 or 6. I don't think it'll be anything like the All-Ireland semi-final last year, and I do still think Derry are struggling to find their mojo, and kind of, not that they've fallen through to this point, but they've managed to get there. They also have what are you looking at? 7-day turnaround, haven't played. It's the 3 weeks in a row, and they played extra time, and they went through the emotional kind of part of playing penalties or penalty shootout as well. So I do think it's stacked nicely in Kerry's favour, but there is the little bit of doubt where you're thinking, oh, maybe Derry are coming back to themselves again. I don't think so, being honest with you.
Like, I am not a massive believer in this Kilkenny team. Of course I'm not a believer in Kilkenny teams. I'm not a massive believer in this Derry or Kerry team. I think they can be got at. I don't know if Derry are the team to get at them, because I just think the championship is so compromised by what people say is, well, that's the reward when you top your group, you get the week off and all that kind of stuff. Well, that's fine, but do we really want it so harsh that a team is basically coming in half injured into these games or totally worn out so that it doesn't even feel like a 50-50? And I think with Galway, that's even more specifically true, because they're coming into this game and you don't know, is Shane Walsh right at all?
Yeah.
Look, and that really frustrates me. I see K32 here saying Stapleton asking Verney to wear a Tip jersey, but he still won't wear a Limerick jersey. That is nonsense. I just don't happen to have one in my house. But I went and looked up this video I did with Eddie Brennan a couple of years ago wearing this Limerick one. I don't see Limerick as a rival.
No, so he does. He did have the good Shaw's 94-96 jersey. You'd want to find it. You'd want to find it again.
It's to do well to fit me these days. But the point is, I've no problem with Limerick. I have no problem wearing their jersey. I'd find it much tougher to wear a Kilkenny jersey, or if Cork started winning again, much tougher there. By the way, I massively respect Kilkenny. It's always the crack when I'm having pops. It's nothing serious. I think they're great lads as well, to be fair.
Have you not got a sugar daddy that could get you a Limerick jersey, no?
No.
I'll be straight with you. That one tweet in the minutes after the All-Ireland final is basically the basis of most of the criticism that you get about Limerick, and that's a fact.
Yeah, but I put in for it, to be fair, don't I? I see a comment asking there from Stockroom Tim, what time is the minor final on? That's on 5:30 on Saturday. If Limerick win the 5 in a row, Shane Stapleton and Buff Egan should be made wear a Limerick jersey for a month. The same one? Or one each.
Limerick villains.
So I don't give Galway a chance in this game, not because I don't think they have players good enough to compete with Dublin, but because I think Comer's only just been rushed back, which they had to do the last day. Shane Walsh, can he be right? Like, they might have said it was his ankle, but it seemed like his hamstring. And like Sean Kelly is an excellent midfielder or defender or wherever you want to put him. But can he be 100% right as well after all the injury issues? Maybe, but Dublin are fully primed coming into this game, and they'll be at full pelt. I just don't know if Galway can be.
They have most of their best players back, although we don't know about Shane Walsh. But yeah, there's that mitigating factor that they're going 3 weeks in a row, and like they just didn't. I think the Armagh game will come back, will cost them again, just like it did last year when they fell in against Mayo, a week later and lost. There is I think Galway are one of Dublin's biggest opposition, but everything would have to be even, shall we say, going into the game. Which it isn't really, and Galway playing Dublin, playing 3 weeks in a row. Derry playing Kerry 3 weeks in a row. I think the two favourites will come through in those games. The other ones, you would favour Donegal against Louth, which we'll get into in a second. But like Roscommon and Armagh is a very interesting one from the point of view of Roscommon were probably coming in. It was probably 70-30 to Tyrone the previous week. It's probably something similar here. Everybody is saying what an opportunity for Armagh to get to their first All-Ireland semi-final since 2005, I think.
I'll double check that, but sorry, I was just looking up another bit of trivia to ask you a question. I'll get the answer to your question in a second.
Well, I think it could be 19 years. But they're favourites now.
Yeah, 05, yeah.
Yeah, they're favourites going into this game, and they generally haven't handled that tag particularly well in recent times. But it is a glorious opportunity for them to get to a semi-final. On the same side of that, it's a glorious opportunity for Roscommon to get to a semi-final as well.
Here's a question for you. When did Galway last beat Dublin in the championship?
Jesus.
We've met 10 times in history, which again just shows how poorly structured our championships are. That Dublin and Galway, two of the teams that have won, a lot of All-Irelands over the course of their history, or have always been strong teams, have only met 10 times ever. How insane is that? And I always give the example, Tip and Kilkenny have not met in the championship for what will be going on 6 years. Ridiculous. Who else would allow this in their structure?
I'm trying to think, is the answer to this even in my lifetime? No, it's not.
No, and it only barely was within Miall McCarthy's lifetime. It's 90 years.
Wow.
1934.
Jesus. That was some pony of a question to try me thinking, oh yeah, what year was it?
Yeah, do you not remember that? No.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Harry came in at 1934. Is Harry on the Google there now, Harry Roberts? Or is that, as the man would say, is that knowledge?
Nah, I don't know. I mean, my former manager, Wakula, I couldn't question him. He's above repute.
Beyond repute.
Yeah. Armagh Roscommon, though, Armagh have played 6 games this year, won 4 of them, drew 1, lost 1 game. And the way they got that draw against Galway the last time out, getting that last minute score, they were down by 5 going into the latter stages. And then I think I kind of flicked the channel, came back, and they were right in the thick of it. And they celebrated that draw like it was an All-Ireland, because obviously it meant that they had the extra rest there. How much of a difference do you think that's going to make against Roscommon?
I think it'll make a fair difference, to be honest with you. But the only thing I'd say about Roscommon is they're coming in on a bit of a crest of a wave after last weekend. Now, it's difficult, obviously, because there was travel involved in last weekend for Roscommon too. The same with Derry, and that can't be understated as well. Derry had to go to Mayo last weekend, probably stayed down the night, probably weren't back till Sunday or whatever. Same with Roscommon, they had to go to Oma, probably weren't back till the next day or whatever, or they were down overnight. That's all messy as well. It just increases the recovery time, shall we say. But I do think Roscommon will sense a bit of an opportunity here, and they're going to have to make it as competitive as humanly possible in the first 20 to 25 minutes. I would say they can't let Armagh get a lead. Just try to sow doubts as early as possible. And I know they only kicked 14 points last weekend, but in the likes of Dara Craig, Enda Smith, Donny Smith, they have potential to put up a good score.
And Armagh have only conceded 2 goals in their 6 games so far, so it's going to be tough to pick the lock back there. The next game that I wanted to refer to was Kerry against Derry, and you've already touched on it here. And it's hard to be totally convinced on Derry, but if you go through Kerry's path so far this year, the teams that they've played in the championship, you couldn't say it's, they've beaten a load of heavy hitters. And they've beaten Cork, they've beaten Clare comprehensively enough, they dismissed Monaghan, they hammered Meath, they beat Louth handsomely. None of those would be All-Ireland challengers. I mean, and I know that Louth are still in it. None of them are All-Ireland challengers. Do we know where Kerry are at?
No, you don't really have any idea, to be honest with you. There are definitely doubts about their form has been patchy at different times. They're not road tested. So it's kind of there's kind of 2 arguments to it. One, they have an easy passage to this point, but they're in the quarterfinals or whatever when some other teams aren't, but they're also in the quarterfinals kind of sleepwalking into a quarterfinal, and there is a possibility for them to be caught. I just don't think Derry are the same team as they were at the end of March, and all the other factors that come into it as well, that we kind of previously mentioned, and the fact that they're playing 3 weeks in a row as well. I think it'll be tight for stages, all right, but I would expect Kerry to win by 5 or 6 in the wind-up. And I'd be the same as you, Shane. I wouldn't have a huge amount of faith in this Kerry team. And they've been, patchy at different times in the last couple of years, even since they won the All-Ireland. What's their best performance since winning the All-Ireland in 22? Have they really backed up, beat Tyrone well in a quarter-final last year? Tyrone haven't proved to be much since then, and were poor the year before as well. So yeah, they're going to need to make a bit of a statement of a performance because they're going to have a nice little passage through if they're going to win All-Ireland this year. But yeah, I'd be the same as you. I wouldn't have too much faith in Kerry, but I still think to get the job done the weekend.
Would you believe Donegal and Louth have never met in the championship before?
That's mad, yeah. Yeah, sure. They wouldn't have really had a place to, until the qualifiers came in, and Louth wouldn't have really been featuring outside of 2010. Yeah, they never featured. They never met back in the 50s, like that, when Louth were going well either. So it's an interesting one. I said it to you kind of privately as well. Just the whole McGuinness thing, having coached Nave Martin for 2 years, is an interesting one, and it just did a bit of digging on it, and how well it kept a secret it was at the time. McGuinness, even on an interview with Sky Sports, contrasted the fact that he had the session done with Galway about 10 minutes, and there was videos flying around the internet and journalists making calls to Galway, and he was with Nave Martin for 6 weeks in the knockout stages of the championship, and there was no calls or no talk about it. It's amazing. So a little part of his heart, I'm sure, is in Monaster Boyce, and he'd obviously know Sam Mulroy very well, and he's going to know how to stop him. But Louth are no one-trick pony. It's unfortunate Kieran Downey's injured, but Kieran Keenan, Kiki they call him, he seems to be the kind of playmaker, very, very good player too. Craig Lennon is flying wing back. You'd imagine he's in pole position for an all-star at the minute. Donald McKenny is doing good stuff in the corner as well. Louth aren't bad, but this, Louth scored 1-9 to win the other day. I know Donegal plays somewhat defensively, but you'd imagine Louth are going to need 15, 16 points to win at the weekend, and I'm not sure if they're going to be able to get that against Donegal.
I've done a few boozes in Monaster Boyce over the years with a couple of friends from up there. So yeah, and they are Nave Martin men. The jocks for Joe is what I was always told when I was in college with them. They eventually did get it. But yeah, that was gas that McGuinness was sitting at home, while he was involved in the management setup there. He was sitting at home watching matches on live stream and then being on the phone to the management team at half time. And, if he had any instructions or whatever.
It's mad, isn't it? Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, that was Ash. It was nuts. It was amazing. I think it was a physio that worked with McGuinness in Donegal kind of put in a call to McGuinness to say that he was working with a team in Louth, and he kind of said, they're very close, good lads, real good lads. They're not far away. They just need something a little different. And McGuinness took that to mean, does your man want me to take a session or two here? And it basically materialised that he kind of did, and he ended up, I think it was Fergal Reel was his name, the manager, brought him in for the latter stages of the two championships. Didn't work out too bad.
Yeah. So that's that fixture. I would imagine Donegal will just about edge that. Look at their form and the teams they've beaten this year. They beat Derry, they saw off Tyrone. I know it took penalties, but they beat Armagh in the Ulster final. They saw off Tyrone a second time. Now they came up short against Cork, but I suppose maybe there was that quite do or die, knowing that they were probably going to be clear the next day out. But I would probably just tend to go along the lines of Louth coming up short here, but I'd say Ger Brennan will have them well primed.
Yeah, and I'd say he might well set them up something similar to what he did in the Leinster final. Maybe not negative. Maybe is not the word to use. What's a kinder way of saying negative? Conservative.
Yeah,
yeah.
Do you think this game could be even more poxy to watch than Cork against Louth?
I don't think so. No. I think
it'd do well to be worse.
I think Donegal. I think Donegal are, a bit of a classier side than Cork are. I would expect Donegal to hit something like 214, 215 maybe. And I'd be very, very surprised if Donegal don't come through. And And like if McGuinness does get Donegal back to an All-Ireland semi-final in his first year, they'll be thinking, we go another step and we go another step. Like, it's not, because nobody's like really lighting it up outside. Like, you still have Dublin as favourites, but outside of that, probably throw a blanket over Kerry, Donegal, Galway, Derry to an extent. So like if you avoid Dublin in a semi-final, you probably have a great chance of getting to a final.
What if we ended up with an All-Ireland semi-final with Roscommon and Louth? And like, this would be a fair turn-up for the Bucks.
Yeah, it's I definitely think it's not beyond the realms of possibility to see Roscommon in a semi-final. I would expect them just to come up short, but it's a glorious opportunity for them. I just think if they can play on the nerves that might be there from an Armagh point of view, just carrying that favouritism tag, and just that people are probably saying to them for the last week that this is what a chance to get through to a semi-final, and that narrative that's out there, Armagh need to blow that out of the water very, very quickly on Saturday.
Okay, well look, we're really looking forward to that. We're obviously really looking forward to the All-Ireland minor final coming this weekend as well. The Electric Ireland All-Ireland minor final between Kilkenny and Tipperary, 5:30 on Saturday. Michael, that's it from the show. We'll do it again soon.
Great stuff, Shane.